Champion Chinese. My name is Pei-Pei Champion. I am the director for Champion Chinese Language Institute, and I'm the creator of Champion Chinese program that can help people to avoid the difficulties at the beginning of learning Chinese language so that we can have a jump start smoothly to this language learning journey. Today I would like to talk about this card before we start with my main subject. So actually this card originally is trying to encourage people to have ambition and have a big goal, bigger than you can imagine. And somehow I have a young student raised his hand and asked me, can a cat ever become a lion, Miss Champion? I say, no. And he say, so we shouldn't have a false expectation. And then I told the child, I say, what is the difference between a little kitty cat and the lion? He said, lion is big and very powerful, and kitty cat is cute and sweet and naughty and everything funny. And I say, okay, but how about a little kitty cat? Mama kitty can be very brave and save their little kitties in the flood, in the rainstorm or earthquake, right? And they can help each other with a very strong and loving spirit, couldn't they? And the child say, yes, of course. And I say, so why don't we look at this picture and think, we would like to have the courage of a lion, although I'm a little kitty cat, right? So I still think this is a very beautiful and meaningful picture. So I just want to share this with everybody before I start. So the following series, I'm going to talk about my experiences in teaching Chinese language in America. How and when I started teaching. It has been decades since I began teaching languages. I was then 16 years old and was assigned as a teaching assistant to the famous Miss Xiao English class at Taipei First Senior High Schools for girls. Miss Xiao could fluently speak, write, and read in 7 different foreign languages. I remember that our first English class, he didn't speak a word of Chinese. Regarding this, I would like to talk about it more because Chinese language is actually a completely different language than all the alphabetic language. And I understand most foreign language teachers would recommend only using target language in the classroom. But think about that. Chinese has 5,000 years of history, and it's very, very rich culture. So how much characters that we need to learn so that a teacher can introduce the culture and historical background of the language to our student. It's not easy, okay? So I would like to encourage the foreign the teachers of all the foreign languages pay attention to this fact. So, and then when we are trying to train our future Chinese language teacher, we need to consider this fact. Okay, so Miss Xiao usually assigned me a subject and asked me to find books, songs, and stories that relate to the subject, and asked me to introduce them to my class in a creative manner or an interesting way. Miss Xiao usually attended the class and reviewed my work by asking the class questions in English. She would ask us to sing her songs I had chosen for the week, to discuss the stories which we read, and usually supplemented to supplement our learning in other courses. That was the first time I learned how to prepare myself to design, organize, and present a foreign language to people in an effective way. Miss Xiao introduced us to a totally new world to approach, teach, and learn a foreign language. I didn't know that I had the ability to teach, and neither did I know that I had the desire to become a teacher until my mother suddenly went bankrupt. At the time, I was 20 years old. When my mother failed in all her businesses, she became depressed and could not go out to work. Being the eldest child, I found a way to support my family. I went to talk with my elementary school teachers about my situation. Knowing me to be a responsible and diligent student, they all decided to help me. They gave me a chance to talk to their students during recess and encouraged them to come to my home to learn conversational English before they enter the junior high school. I stretched out my dining room table at home, had my friends from other leading universities teaching math and science, and become an English teacher. From this learning experience and teaching experience, I was able to create a curriculum that met the need of our society, especially for our high school students, and design a strategy to approach students to cultivate their interest in learning English and to build up a solid foundation for their learning. I soon became famous and was offered jobs in many foreign language institutions. I also had the opportunity to work at the Pei-Pei American School as an assistant teacher and the Furen University as an English instructor for their adult program. Teaching at the Trinity College Chinese Language School. I changed jobs several times in those years, but teaching was something I have enjoyed and kept doing. The only period I did not teach was the time I lived in San Francisco, because the love I have for my daughter and my obligation to sustain and promote my beloved language and culture, I started teaching my lifelong passion again. I was the third grade level teacher when I started teaching in Trinity College, the Chinese language school. However, the age range of my students was huge. from 7 years old to about 15 years old. At the beginning, I encountered a lot of problems which had been developed from the first day they enter the school. My students all complain, Chinese is difficult, or Chinese is no fun, or I hate to come to Chinese school, all sorts of negative comments. I started researching and designing my curriculum in a way that I thought would be interesting, easy, and educational to meet my students' need. My students were the ones who came from the families that did not speak any Chinese at home at all. Growing up in the United States, they needed an environment to learn and practice the language. I soon understand that the traditional way that Chinese used to approach and teach their students would never fit and work here in America. I knew that I had to do something to help my daughter and other students. Luckily, by the second class, all my students changed their minds about learning Chinese. They like my class. They enjoy my way of approaching them and teaching them. By the third class, they show me their enthusiasm and interest to learn. Most of all, they show their passion and love for me, my culture, and my language. In the beginning of my classes, I taught them songs and games for a few weeks. I, of course, blended in some vocabulary, sentence, grammar, and stories. I also created a lot of visual aids and used puppets to help my students focus their attention and strengthen their interest so that they will be having interest in learning the Chinese characters. I taught the Chinese characters by telling them stories just to lead them in a creative and imaginative thought process instead of stuffing their brains with knowledge. I interacted with every single child in my classroom. I rewarded them with little trinkets whenever they demonstrate their enthusiasm to learn, courage to try, or interest to act and react. To help them practice the language at home, I record all the materials that review how they could trace their learned material with, again, many stories and songs. I recorded 4 tapes and games to all my students so that they would be able to practice when they left my class. By the end of 6 months, my students learned 37 phonetic Pei-Pei symbols. Most of them understood the relationship between Pei-Pei symbols and the pinyin system. The names of 10 different colors, 10 fruits, family members, more than 20 animals, and that they could sing about 15 songs, play more than 10 Chinese games. Most of all, they could greet people, make phone calls, compose their own sentences, and express their feelings in Chinese. I started teaching kindergarten 1 year after I took the so-called 3rd grade level class. to help the kids build a solid foundation was the reason why I moved to the kindergarten level. Although my class still had a big age range, the year from about 5 to 15, I was able to conduct the class in a happy and productive way. I encourage the parents to sit in the classroom to learn with their children and to assist their children. After 2 years with my beginning class students, I found that I had made the right decision. My students not only learned a lot, they all had great interest in the Chinese language. They were all optimistic about coming to Chinese school, and they all seemed to be very excited and happy to see me. I found that encouraging the parents to sit in the classroom with their children, learn with them, and provide their kids with assistance when needed was a great idea. I found the best way to learn a foreign language, that is, learn it with your best friend or your family. So this is basic history of my teaching experience at the beginning. Mostly I talk about was the period I taught at the Chinese language schools in Trinity College. I also taught at Tzu Chi, Chinese language school in Hawaii. So, well, I will talk about the experience that I taught in Hawaii in next section. I have taught in Hanaho'oli, which our former president, Mr. Obama, went to. I also taught at many schools. I have to, it has been a while. I need to find out all those names because those are Hawaiian names. But anyway, I hope these sections will help you understand me better. I do have a lot of teaching experiences and passion to teach. I'm very, very loyal to the goal of a productive teacher should have, and as an educator, as a Chinese language teacher. So I will share more stories with you in our future sections.